the identification of competency and then determining what is the best selection method to assess that competency, that's a lot of the time work not done, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Um, I mean, the classic default is conflating experience with competency. As you would know, all the evidence over many years is very clear. The experience does not predict performance, and yet so many hiring managers act as if that's the case. And of course,
Mm.
it starts with that ancient way of assessing a candidate, which is a resume. I mean, it really hasn't changed over literally the centuries. when
Yes.
when you think back, that a resume was still pretty much what people used early last century, and the LinkedIn profile is just a slight improvement on that. But of
Mm.
course, what does that document or that profile highlight? It highlights the things that aren't predictors of performance. It highlights the amount of experience somebody has and other things that don't directly drive high performance. What drives high performance? Behavior, very specific behavior, and the research identifies that specific behavior.
It tends to, and from my experience when I was a recruiter as well, it tends to then create a mindset of my best candidate is the candidate who's done this job before, as opposed to who has the greatest capability to do this one that we've got in the future.
Precisely. And I mean, you always look at the world of sport as an indicator because there's so much at stake. Why did Ron Barassi go to Ireland and look at young Irish Gaelic footballers when they had no Australian rules football experience? And you look at how successful that was with, of course, Jim Stein's winning the Brownlow medal for the best and fairest player in the AFL in 1991. I mean, that's an extraordinary example of forward thinking in terms of recruitment. And I actually regard Ron Barassi as a real hero of mine in terms of recruitment, because he proved that focusing on experience was for people who had a very narrow way of considering success. And he
Mm.
looked at athletic competencies and that those competencies were trainable, and he could build AFL specific skills on top of that, which is exactly what he did. So to me, that's just a classic example of how sport leads the way in thinking differently about recruitment. With the speed with which the workplace and work is changing, that experience is less and less important, because what you've done previously is rapidly becoming redundant, and it's the behaviors that you've learned, the behaviors that you've developed, the thinking that you have, those things are going to be the foundation for your future success.